And we're all live. Welcome back to another Gimbal Weekly Update. I'm Amanda Repass. We've got Keith Tyner with us.
Hello, how are y'all today?
Welcome back, Keith.
Good to be
Doug.
back.
Hello, Douglas.
Hi, everyone.
And good morning, Deb.
Good morning, everybody.
I'm going to quickly read through these compliance thing. Content provided at the event is for general information only, not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Any performance reference is historical and no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Any economic forecast set forth during the event may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that any strategy will be successful. These thoughts and opinions are those of Gimbal Financial and do not represent the views of LPL Financial. Securities offered through LPL Financial, a member of FINRA and SIPC. Investment advice through Gimbal Financial, a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL.
What did you say again?
I'm trying to get that so quick and speedy.
You did really good today.
Good.
I think that's your fastest yet.
Oh, I had to take a couple breathers in there, but
I feel much safer now that you warned us.
thank goodness. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, what's going on with shredding? Are we still on?
We are still on for shredding. I have a call in to see what day of the week we are going to get our shredding picked up now that we've moved. And I'm planning on having the shredder come in week after next. So everyone can still clean out their files and bring it over next week. I just ask that you at least call us or email one of us and make sure there will be somebody at the office. But yeah, that's what's going on with the shredder.
And if any of you know Warren Buffett or any neighbors similar to Warren Buffett who need shredding done, have them stop by Gimbal Financial too. We'd love to help them shred their stuff. So pass it on to your family and friends, all seriousness. What else do we need to know, Deb?
Well, we've got our audit this Monday, so we'll see how that goes. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, and if you weren't on the last couple of calls, Gimbal Financial, we strive for just an excellent compliance culture, and that's been something we've had for years. And so about every year we have an audit from either LPL or somebody else to make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And over the years, those have become increasingly smoother. And a lot of that's thanks to good technology and record keeping. And so, yeah, appreciate the work there, Deb.
Doug, I think even more importantly than all that stuff is why we have a good compliance record is we thoroughly believe that you do unto others as you would have done to yourself. So it's more than just doing all the regulatory things. It's an attitude that we have that we really honor our clients and want to treat them in a way like we would want to be treated, because all the regulatory stuff does is try to find criminals, and so far we've avoided that pretty nicely. Usually what will happen is we will have not dotted an I somewhere, and that keeps the regulators fully employed, so we appreciate that too.
Well, maybe Keith, you can drop by the Shreve household, because the regulators were out this morning between my 7 and 5-year-old, or no, 9 and 7-year-old. You know, boy, they were really going at it, so we had to get compliant.
Yeah, they were doing unto one another the way they wanted it done, right?
That's exactly
I'm sorry,
right.
I missed that. Maybe we're gonna let you join the audience today, okay?
Okay. All right. See everybody.
hi, Deb.
So Keith, before we start talking about the stock market, when you're on vacation, do you watch the stock market?
I watch it a little. Yeah, it's since it is my hobby, it's kind of it's what I enjoy doing. So yeah, I don't watch it as much though. I saw we had a big rally on Monday, and then I ascended to the peak of Beartooth Pass, and that was. I think the rally a week ago Monday ascended and then came down at about the same time I did. So yeah, I watched it a little bit.
Way back in the old days, in 2003, I was with a large brokerage firm before I came to Gimbal Financial, and my computer system had a little corner window where CNBC was on 24/7. 24/7, right. Every time I logged in, CNBC was right there. And I was telling a friend of mine this week over coffee how thankful I am to be free from the addiction of having that in front of my face. And you guys, you know, from checking out these videos or just client conversations, quarterly phone calls, that we really do. We enjoy the heck out of the stock market. It is like a hobby to us. We can't help ourselves to have this desire to keep learning and learning. But learning is different from something being in your face all the time. We don't even have real-time quotes. We can get them, but you don't need that stuff just being bombarded in front of your face all the time to stay in tune to the stock market and to stay in tune with what's going on in the world. And so I bring that to your attention before we get into markets, because news is a lot like that. You don't have to have it on real time in front of your face to know what's going on in society. Your head's not going to be stuck in the sand. You know what's going on. And so I just want to encourage you, freedom.
Doug, the last time I watched the news was I was traveling at the beginning of March, and I visited two friends in Arizona, and they both had the news on. And that was the last time I saw the news. And I know what's going on. I just don't watch the news.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, if we can continue that dialogue with any of you on the call or watching the call and you need some encouragement, just give us a buzz, and we'd love to talk about that kind of stuff with you. We love doing life with you. When you call and you ask for advice about what color a car to buy, that's the kind of stuff that we just love doing with you guys. So thanks for including us in your lives, just even beyond the market. But with that said, let's get into the market. Amanda, am I cutting you off? Did you have anything that you wanted to address before we do this?
No, the only thing I was thinking of is we have been starting to use a new scheduling tool. And so that is full up and moving. Some of you have already scheduled some appointments with Doug and Keith that way. And we're excited for everyone else to try it. If you guys are having trouble with the link itself, give Debbie or I a call. We can schedule it for you. But it's really, really cool because you get a confirmation, you get reminders. And so everyone, it's just, I think it's really much easier for everyone. Any complaints so far, guys?
No, I've heard
We
a lot
never
of
get
positive.
complaints.
What did you say?
What did you say, Keith?
We never get complaints. Doesn't this go through compliance? Nobody ever complains.
No, do you guys have complaints about Schedule 1s?
Yeah, we don't complain about anything.
I think it's working great. I absolutely love it. I want to give a shout out to my friend Aaron, because he used it first, and we tried it. And Amanda, she's been making sure that it works for us. So it's just really been cool. And on the one hiccup I've had, one of my friends tried to schedule a breakfast with me, and it scheduled it for 2 o'clock. So I don't know if he was like in Israel when he set the appointment or what, but if we do have a hiccup, just get a hold of us and we'll rally around it.
Doug, remember that time? Remember that time we had a meeting scheduled in Pittsburgh to go see what was going on the oil boom and the clocks on the different computers. We're just riding along, and they're sitting at the restaurant waiting on us.
Well, and hey, that can happen. Our CRM is their company, I believe, based out of California. So as much as I'd like to be in California at times, we prefer Eastern Standard Time. All right, well, let's jump into the markets. And I've got something I'm really looking forward to sharing with you guys. And it's not Polaris, even though I think Polaris is super cool. I'm gonna brag on a company while I see Polaris here. There's this company down in Madison, Indiana, that we've become friends with, and boy, they create some of the coolest modifications to Polaris off-road vehicles. And it's a story of innovation. And people are saying, hey, what's going on with the stock market? Can it keep doing this? Will the cruise lines, will the airlines come back? And here's what I would encourage you with. Innovators make stuff happen. They make stuff happen out of nothing. They have dreamt up an idea, and next thing you know, it's a common household item. And so the innovators will carry us through. And just even seeing Polaris jump up on my screen this morning is a reminder of this company in Madison that's been innovative, taking risks, and doing really cool things. But I'm going to switch us over to the NASDAQ. Always like to start off with the NASDAQ. Again, 3,500 stocks, mostly technology, some healthcare, some biotech. These are companies that are growth oriented. They're not worried too much about paying you an income stream through a dividend. And these are companies that are reinvesting their dollars back into themselves. And maybe it's through new technologies, maybe it's through hiring more people, getting a new building, moving their locations, whatever it is, they are reinvesting for growth. And so when you see the NASDAQ, that's what you're seeing. And that's why this thing has just taken off. I mean, who would have thought? We had it fall, came down through the 200-day moving average, collected itself at the low, and then once it got above the 200-day, boy, it has not looked back. And so the NASDAQ here recently, we've had a couple selling days, and we're keeping an eye on those, to see if they come down to the 50. Wouldn't be surprised to see that. But
that's the weekly chart you're looking at there.
Oh, apologies. Switch over to the daily. There we go. Wouldn't be surprised to see this come even down to the 50. This is the 50-day moving average. But if it does, these corrections, these sell-offs, these are natural things that take place. We've had a lot of technology companies having a lot of success here recently. And they can't have that type of success forever. You're going to see ebbs and flows. You're going to see people say, you know what? I'm content with some of these profits. I'm going to take some profits. Or you're going to have some fear out there. I've been receiving some calls from some of you who say, oh my goodness, we have a presidential election. Hey, we've got them every 4 years, thankfully. And I want to encourage you that during the election cycle, yeah, we're in tune to that, but at the same time, we're studying the market even more so. We want to hear what the market thinks, and the market votes every day by selling and buying shares. So that's what's going on at the NASDAQ. Keith, do you see anything with your lens that's interesting here?
No, I think this level we're at right now, we had a sell-off, a pretty hard one about, was that 2 or 3 weeks ago, where it dropped down, and that was 2 weeks ago. So that sell-off, it bounced back, and then it's testing those levels today. And there's been a lot of profits made in the last 90 to 100 days. So people are, taking some profits and maybe ready for summer vacation or something. But yeah, no, it looks very normal activity out there to me.
I really expected to see more selling after that Monday. But again, the market doesn't care what Doug Shreve thinks. And that's why I care what it thinks. And so we look at it every day. We look at it multiple times to see what's going on. We'll switch over and take a look at the S&P 500. S&P 500 is looking pretty strong too. Not quite as strong as the NASDAQ, but pretty strong. And what I mean by that is we're above the 200-day moving average, this black line. We're above the 50-day, this red line. And so it's shown some strength. But remember, the S&P 500 is going to have it's going to have all kinds of stocks in it. It's going to have oil stocks. Those haven't been so good. It's going to have airlines, not so good. Cruise, like transport. It's going to have a lot of different companies in there that really their industries haven't come back. And if you ever want to get some one-on-one time with me or Keith, we'd walk you through some of those industries or specific companies to show you the challenges that they're facing. So this is a little bit more of a broad-based index. And so you're going to see it just hasn't rallied quite as strongly as the NASDAQ has.
And over time, you really wouldn't expect it to do as well, just because the companies are more mature usually, and they don't have as high a profit margin as some of those high-tech companies that are in the NASDAQ.
Yeah, several of these companies, they're passing their dividends and their incomes back to you. And that's a way that they reward the shareholder, is not necessarily through potential growth, but through a combination of stock prices rising over time and some income as well. That's what you have in the S&P 500. And then one of our favorites, the S&P 600. Again, these are smaller companies than the previous two that we've looked at. But to Keith's point from a month ago or so, these are still big companies. I mean, these guys have jets. And so, you know, these are the up and coming stocks that are out there. And you can see that we're starting to move close to the 200-day moving average. The S&P 600 is a blend of several small companies, whereas you might notice in your portfolios from time to time, we'll buy a small cap index, and maybe that index isn't quite as broad as this one. And so it could even be performing a little better than the overall index. Last thing I want to show, and this is the most exciting one. I've been waiting all week to share this with you guys. I'm so excited. Okay, here we go. Yes, this is the VIX. Okay, check this out. This is amazing. So last Friday when we spoke, the VIX was still above its 200-day moving average. Okay, and so that tells us that it's been pretty volatile out there. There's been a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear. If you look to the left of this great big mountain, if you look to the left, we were under the 200-day, and this is back when markets were doing great. Started to climb up during Corona. But look at this. This is what happened just this week. This is fresh. We got below the 200-day moving average. I was so encouraged to see that. And so we'll be keeping an eye out to see if that trend continues, or if we're going to battle for price over the next 200 or over the next few days, right around this level. Did you happen to take notice of that, Keith, or any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think what that means to investors is when that line flattens out like it does on the left of the screen there, it's normally an easier market for us and you to make money in the markets. When you have these high numbers well above 20, it's just a hard time to make any money. I mean, we've had a big rally in the market, but to really be able to relax, a lot of times if that volatility can stabilize down below 20, the world will be a little more easy for us to find things where we feel comfortable just holding on to them for a longer period of time. I think as long as this volatility is there, it puts us with a little bit more decisive on the investments we have in the portfolios, because it suggests to us this economy can shift and change quite a bit in the days and months ahead. So once it stabilizes, it's just an easier environment for investors to make money. At least historically it has been. There's no guarantees of the future.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on the VIX for you. We'll keep an eye on the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and the small cap stocks. We're also even looking across the Atlantic and Pacific to see what our global markets, our foreign markets are doing. And you've seen the tagline, we're all in this together, and I'm encouraged by that. To think that there's somebody in Singapore or somewhere who might be working on a cure or a strategy to help advance medicines. It's just really exciting to think about. And speaking of foreign countries, we've been doing some digging on Zoom to make sure that that we're protecting you and protecting these conversations. And Keith, what did you discover in your homework on Zoom?
We may be in this all together, but we're only using, according to the Zoom behind the scenes, we're only using data centers that are in countries that we feel comfortable with. For example, we're not sending this feed through China, and Singapore are two of the countries where we've excluded their data centers. And that was really a revelation to us. One of you pointed out to us that you had a concern about that, so we had to dig into the bells and whistles behind the scenes to figure out how that operates. And it opened really some creativity and some curiosity for us to figure out how other resources we use, where the data centers are in those particular places. And so it's kind of caused us to do some more due diligence on your behalf and our own behalf. So that's what we know today.
Well, and I appreciate that. And one of the cores of our culture here at Gimbal is just to keep learning. And a good friend of mine passed away about a year and a half ago. And, you know, as he was on his deathbed, I was hanging out with him, and I just said, hey, what's one thing you want me to take away from our friendship? And this is a guy who just always challenged himself. And he said, Doug, keep learning, keep learning. And this is a guy who just picked up sailing to learn sailing. What is it that you have going on that you can keep learning about? And being engaged, being involved with relationships, that will keep you learning. When you offered the feedback to us, hey, I don't want to watch this thing if the servers are in China, that engaged Keith and Amanda to learn more about Zoom. When we wanted to do online scheduling, Amanda had to learn the process and options that were available out there. And so I know we have some kids listening to this webinar, and I want to thank you for joining us. And I want to encourage you guys especially to keep learning, because you're going to be able to pick up some things that can really help your mom and dad. It can really help your neighbors by you learning, because you're able to pick up stuff on technology that old guys like me just won't be able to grasp. And we won't be able to pick it up as efficiently. And if I'm wise, I'm going to trust you with it. And so keep learning, know what the distractions are, and you know, do your best to avoid those. When I was having coffee this morning at my favorite place, I'll make a quick plug for the Indie Coffee Roasters. I don't even know if I can do that, but I just did. And so, but anyway, I was talking to a friend of mine who works there, and one of the things she was telling me is she was a nurse, and then she became a mom. She's a mom for, you know, full time. And one of the things, the dreams that she had, was to have something in front of her that challenged her so much that she could possibly fail at it. That was her goal. And the reason why that was such a good goal for her is she knew that it would stretch her beyond her limits, and she would have to rely on a power source that's even greater than her. And so right now, I want to encourage you, if you're feeling a little isolated, if you know, we're going into this next wave of Corona stuff, schools are about ready to start for you kids and teachers. A good word to someone else can go a long way. And I'm not talking about fluffing somebody up. I mean a really good word. If you see something that somebody's doing, you might just encourage their day, that they start doing something that's beyond who they really are. Or maybe you get them back to who they really are and encourage them. So that's my message for you today, is your best investment. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about investment, but your best investment is always what you can give to somebody else and what you can share with them. And so if it's your neighbor, whatever it is this weekend, I just want to encourage you to get out and make an investment somehow in somebody else. What else do you guys have going on that you would like to talk about?
Well, I spent the last couple of weeks on the road. I was a gypsy with some of my family, and I miss the road. I learn a lot, find a lot of investment ideas when I'm on the road traveling, and it something about it energizes my soul. But I had a couple things that I thought I would throw out there, and just plant some ideas. Like the idea that you can say I was wrong is a big deal in investing or in life in general. And one of the things I learned this trip, I was definitely wrong. Like when I travel up I-65 to Chicago, I was positive all those wind turbines were going to be like maybe converted to Top Golfs or something real soon. and there used to be hundreds of wind turbines when we traveled the countryside, and there's literally thousands and thousands of them now. And the research I did is, you have one of those industrial grade wind turbines, just one, the the installation setup, the cost for one of those is between 1.25 and 2.25 million dollars.
Did you say
And
for just one of those?
just one, between 1.25 and 2.25 million dollars for each one of those. And so that's what I said. And so let me see if I can share my screen here.
How many of those could we put in Gimbal's new backyard?
One. So check this out. Did you see this?
Yes, I have seen that. That is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a exchange traded fund that evidently deals with those. I'm not recommending it. It's extended and overpriced, but as I looked at it, I was like, huh, that's interesting that wind is something. And so that was one of the things I learned on the road. I've learned to say I was wrong or I'm sorry pretty quickly these days because, you know, when you're younger, you know everything, and the older you get, the more you realize what you don't know. And so the second thing that that I thought was really interesting on the road, let me see if I can share this screen too.
I love the stock ticker of that last one.
I thought that was fun.
I like the humor.
Yeah, FAN, fan. How about this? I-80 heading west on through North Dakota. This is sitting up at the exit. And can you tell what that is?
It looks like an eye, a bird's eye view.
Oh.
Wow, that's a great guess.
I don't know.
A guy named Gary Greff envisioned this thing in the late 80s. And his vision was that he thought that the small towns that were bypassed by the interstates needed some attention, and that he had this plan to attract people to his town. And he did it in a way where he built this sculpture. That sculpture is in the Guinness Book of World Records. It's huge. I stood up next to that wall in front of it, and the wall in front of it towered over me. And so I don't know if that's 100 feet high or how high that thing is, but it stands out. And it isn't an eye. I met Gary at his gift shop in town and asked him what his inspiration for the eye was. And he said, well, first of all, it's the sun and it's not an eye. And so
he really blew that one.
Yeah, so art is in the eyes of the beholder. So he was very gracious to me in pointing that out. But what he did is he had this vision in the late 80s, and he built this thing. It took 8 years to build it, took cranes to lift it up there. But on this road from the interstate to his town, there's 8 of those different sculptures. They're huge like this, and it takes him 8 years each. And so he's motivated to get every single one of them out there. And he's like each one of these sculptures had a parking lot that could probably park 30 or 40 cars. And for the 5 minutes that we got off of the interstate to look at this one, probably 5 cars were at this one. And those 5 cars followed us, and we followed them all the way into the town. And so if you can imagine the creativity and the entrepreneurial spirit that this fellow had, that he's bringing thousands of people into his community that wouldn't have otherwise come into their town. And so that's what Doug was talking about earlier, that the entrepreneurial spirit does a lot of amazing things. Like we stopped at a restaurant that they call McDowell's in Coming to America. And I don't care for that particular restaurant much, but it was one of the few kind of drive-throughs you could do. And to think that how badly they execute their drive-through compared to another fast food chain that can wrap 2 lines of people around the building and serve it, that's not even a high-tech solution. And so the entrepreneurial spirits are going to drive stocks and opportunities for months and years ahead. And so I think as you all are going about your days, you don't have to travel the countryside. You can just observe things in your community and see opportunities that are probably good to know and really encouraging things going forward.
Yeah, that's a good word. There's so much more we could talk about today. We packed a lot into 29 minutes, but if you want to talk about this stuff more, give us a call. We can't help but want to talk about the future and what's happening in America and around the world right now. And we're just thankful for you that join us every week, or maybe you catch the replay, but thank you for that. Thanks tons for doing business with us. And we'll just look forward to either seeing you in person or seeing you here next week.
Have a great weekend.
Take care.